So what's some of the craziest alien abduction stories you've heard in your lifetime? I know I've heard quite a few that'll send chills down your spine. And speaking of chills, this next video we get into, man, is alien kidnapped this man, and what he told sent chills to everyone. Let's check it out.
Us. Calvin Parker is now ready to tell the story of the event that would change his life forever.
I seen three bulky looking creatures coming toward us. By the time we stood up and turned around, they was there on us. They was in an examination room, took me and laid me on an examination table, and he just backed up out of the way. I couldn't move or anything.
I just remember waking up. I just saw this large head hovering over top of me. There was three of these beings who physically were in the room. They were literally dragging me from my bed. The only part of the experience that I don't fully recall is how we got from the hallway up to their ship.
They come in the night, leaving only whispers and shadows behind. Are they just figments of our imagination, or something more? For decades, nobody believed them.
As a scientist, it seems it is what the witness reported.
But now, we're finally bringing into light the story of people who were taken by aliens.
When I was 6 years old. And the next thing I know, I'm just floating up through the air. I can't properly describe it.
Zach G.
And I was abducted by aliens when I was 6 years old.
Zach A.G. was first taken by aliens when he was 6. He was floated out of his house into a UFO with a bright white interior and laid on a table.
And the next thing I know, I'm just floating up through the air. I can't properly describe it.
He could see small beings, but couldn't make them out. And then he saw their leader, a giant alien, looking almost like a praying mantis, with beady, bulging eyes. It held Zach's head and turned it, and everything went fuzzy. They showed Zach a collection of memories, including one from his past life. Before Zach knew, he was back in his bed. Decades later, Zach saw similar creatures in his backyard and even woke up his wife, but couldn't do anything, and they left. Well, how creepy is that? Frederick Valentine.
So y'all gonna tell this man he's lying? And if he's lying, that's between him and his maker. But you gonna sit here and tell a person that experienced this when he was 6 years old and probably now has carried this trauma throughout his entire life to where he probably needs therapy? Like, I don't know how y'all sleep at night doing something like that, bro. But I can't do that to somebody.
Frederick Valentine, a 20-year-old Australian pilot, mysteriously disappeared on October 21st, 1978, during a training flight over the Bass Strait. His last communication with Melbourne Flight Service included a report of an unidentified aircraft with bright lights and metallic surfaces following him, along with descriptions of the aircraft making unusual maneuvers. Valentich's final transmission was interrupted by a metallic scraping sound, and he was never heard from again.
It's hovering, it's not an aircraft!
Investigations into his disappearance revealed no trace of Valentich or his aircraft. Despite extensive searches, it is believed he was taken by aliens, since the area was haunted by similar sightings. Ufologists have gone over the area multiple times, finding evidence of an abduction, but nobody knows what happened to Frederick Valentich. Philip Spencer. The Ilkley Moor incident, occurring on December 1st, 1987, is one of the UK's most popular alien abduction cases. Philip Spencer, a former policeman, was navigating a foggy moor using a compass when he encountered a small, green creature, which he managed to photograph. But then, everything went blank. When he awoke, Spencer was disoriented. His compass reversed polarity, and village clocks confirmed he was out for a long time. Experts quickly analyzed the photo, surprisingly revealing it wasn't doctored.
As a scientist, it doesn't seem like it's a hoax. It seems that it is what the witness reported.
Despite being hounded by news reporters and even government officers, Spencer swears up and down he encountered the captured alien being. It is believed Spencer was one of many to meet aliens at Ilkley Moor, but the only to return. Debbie George.
So if it's not real, then why is he being hounded and investigated and interrogated by government officials? Why? Why do they care? Come on, man. Like, see through the BS. I need y'all to see through
Gordon
it.
Cobble.
I know for a fact that there were things that I wrote in that book and things that I've written in this book now that he would not have really been pleased with.
Debbie's story first came into light after Bud Hopkins published it in his book, writing Debbie as a woman named Kathy Davis. Accordingly, Debbie has constantly interacted with aliens, first encountering some sort of UFO near her childhood home, which returned years later after Debbie had settled down and had kids, forcibly taking her in her sleep. The aliens aboard the UFO subjected her to multiple medical tests. Each time, nothing would support Debbie's story save for a large ring in her backyard, burnt into the shape by the UFO, landing on the grass, where nothing would grow for years.
And my experiences were more of a physical level. They were leaving marks in yards, there were witnesses.
Debbie has herself written books about her experience, but like any other UFO abductee, only a few took her seriously. Travis Walton. On November 5th, 1975, in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, Travis Walton's logging crew came under investigation after his sudden disappearance. The crew mentioned seeing a bright glimmer of light, a disc-shaped object, which put Walton in a trance-like state, and he apparently vanished into the light. Their account was supported by polygraph tests. The incident sparked a massive search, though Walton reappeared near Heber, Arizona, with little memory of his whereabouts. But later, he described experiences aboard an alien spacecraft involving examinations by aliens. According to him, the aliens could even disguise as humans. Eventually, Walton managed to escape. Although Walton kept confusing the timeline, his account of being taken by aliens never changed and even passed multiple truth detectors. Terry Lovelace.
But what more information do y'all need? That's not enough, right? Polygraph test, truth test. That's not enough, right? You need more. Come on.
In June 1977, Terry Lovelace, a U.S. Air Force medic, and his friend Toby embarked on a camping trip in Devil's Den State Park, Arkansas. As night fell, a massive, triangular craft illuminated by a series of lights appeared above them, bathing them in an intense glow. The event led to a blackout, and upon regaining consciousness, both men were physically ailing and distressed, with no memory of what happened. The duo had severe dehydration and marks on the body, but were scared to speak about it because of their career. Decades later, a routine X-ray revealed an unusual implant in Lovelace's leg, and he went public. He wrote, "Incident at Devil's Den, revealing the government knows about aliens." Carl Higdon. October 25th, 1974, Carl Higdon was on a hunting trip in Medicine Bow National Forest. Here, he tried to take down an elk, but saw the slug slow down mid-air. Also, described as humanoid with unusual features and a tight black jumpsuit, then appeared. He offered Higdon pills that would eliminate the need for food for days, which Higdon accepted. Then, Auso took Higdon aboard a transparent vehicle into an otherworldly dimension. Here, Higdon observed other humanoid figures and bizarre landscapes before being abruptly returned to Earth. He was shaken, with nothing but physical evidence like the reversed slug to prove his story. Weirdly enough, ever since his return, Higdon's pre-existing conditions healed, and he never got sick again. Aaron Schultz. From the age of 8 to 10, in a quiet suburb near St. Louis, Missouri, Schultz encountered beings with large heads and dark, bulging eyes, dressed in form-fitting silvery suits. These entities led him to their spacecraft, where they conducted medical examinations in a room with white walls that resembled molten metal. It happened several times, each time Schultz returned home just before dawn. And then one day, he managed to ask them who they were. Humans from the future, that's all they said, shaking little Schultz to his core. For decades, Schultz stayed silent, unsure if anyone would believe him. But now, he's finally speaking up, and is the only to believe the stories of other victims like him.
Stayed silent and also looked like he hadn't slept. Like, look at the face. He looked like he's tired. I could be wrong. But he looks like he hadn't slept in years, bro. Like, it looks like it's weighing on him.
Finally speaking up, and is the only to believe the stories of other victims like him. Tammy Stone. In 1973, near Waco, Texas, while driving home after a late-night shift, Tammy Stone suddenly felt strange and lost 3 hours of time. Although spooked, she thought nothing of it until she began to have disturbing dreams that pieced back her memories. In these, strange figures with thin faces pulled her from her car to an alien craft. They laid Tammy on a table and inserted a small object into her nose. Their tools looked like a giant eye, scaring Tammy, who forgot everything when she returned home. Later, she checked her nostrils and could feel something but couldn't see it. No doctor took her seriously enough to get an x-ray, so her case remains the strangest mystery till date. Maria Ward. Maria Ward was sleeping when a bright flash woke her up. At exactly 3:17 a.m., she heard a voice saying, "Follow the light." And then she was lifted up into a strange aircraft. She opened her eyes, only to find herself against creepy, 5 feet tall extraterrestrial creatures, all donned in milky white, which began conducting some sort of medical examination. Throughout, she kept smelling rotting leaves. After what seemed like an eternity, she woke up back in her bedroom, her body covered with weird marks. Terrified, she visited medical professionals who couldn't figure out where these weird marks came from, but did advise her to call the police. But Ward was too scared. But now, she's finally speaking up. Avis family. On the evening of October 27, 1974, the Avis family was driving through Avley, Essex, when a dense green mist engulfed their car, leading to temporary malfunctions in their vehicle's electronics and lights. As they drove through this mist, they felt an unusual coldness, followed by a sensation of being moved forward. It wasn't until they reached home that they realized 3 hours had passed, without them realizing it. Creepily after this, the Avis family changed. They stopped eating meat and drinking, became quite aware of their environment, and experienced paranormal occurrences throughout. They later said tall, peaceful aliens with pink eyes had taken them aboard a ship and were sure the aliens blessed their health. But nobody believed them. Betty and Barney Hill. On the night of September 19th, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill experienced what became one of the most documented alien abduction stories. As they drove through New Hampshire's White Mountains, they observed a UFO. This encounter included an abduction where both were subjected to medical examinations. The Hills noticed unusual phenomena immediately after the incident. Their watches stopped working, and there were shiny circles on their car's trunk that reacted strangely to a compass. Following the encounter, they became distressed and sought help from Dr. Benjamin Simon, who put them under hypnosis, where they recalled detailed interactions with the alien beings, including observing a star map that Betty later reproduced, said to depict the aliens' home system near Zeta Reticuli. Linda Corti.
Truth test, lie detector, hypnosis. But y'all need more. You need more, right? You need some more things that happen before you to start to, not necessarily believe. I'm not looking for you to believe, but to somewhat take this serious and look into it. That's all I'm saying. But you need more tests, though, right? I get it. This isn't enough. That last story, though, is the one I was familiar with. I've heard that one a few times, and that one always like send chills. Like if you go get a chance to go watch a video on it, do so.
Stile Napolitano. Linda had just woken up when a hovering UFO levitated her from her 12th floor apartment. The incident was reportedly observed by several witnesses, including 2 bodyguards who were allegedly protecting the then Secretary General of the UN. Aboard the UFO, Linda met gray aliens who took her to a room filled with advanced technology. She underwent an examination, an experience she later recalled during hypnosis. Linda later returned, unharmed but changed. She was no longer her happy-go-lucky self and began viewing November 30th, 1989 as the darkest day in her life. Linda's story, though supported by the bodyguards, has met criticism. Many feel her abduction was a crazy cover-up for a secret controversy by the UN, but who knows the truth? Antonio Villas-Boas. Antonio Villas-Boas, a 23-year-old Brazilian, was working in his fields at night to avoid the heat. Out of nowhere, a red star descended towards him, transforming into an aerial craft with a rotating structure on top. As he attempted to flee, Boas was captured by small humanoid beings who dragged him aboard. Inside, Boas was smeared with a clear, odorless liquid. He even met a very attractive female alien with blonde hair and a pointed chin. Boas claimed the aliens were conducting a breeding experiment. After getting back, Boas suffered nausea, weakness, anxiety, and nightmares detailing his encounter. Boas is sure there's a race out there that's half human, half aliens, ready to take over the world when we least expect. Herbert Shermer.
Nah, he just fathered an alien, bro. He got alien kids out there in the world. That's what he got. They just used him.
Herbert Shermer, a 22-year-old police officer, was patrolling when he noticed red truck lights, only to realize they were from a metallic disc-shaped object floating above the road. The object emitted a high-pitched scream and took Shermer, returning him later. Following the encounter, Shermer reported physical symptoms such as a headache and a red welt on his neck. Shermer underwent hypnosis by Dr. Sprinkle in 1968, where he described the beings as short, humanoid figures with cat-like eyes and a winged serpent emblem on their uniforms. The beings were using electrical power and had bases on Venus and Earth. The Condon Committee, which investigated UFO sightings at the time, was skeptical, but Shermer maintains his story. Mann family. In 1978, the Mann family, including John Mann, his wife Gloria, his sister Frances, and their 2 children, encountered an unexplained brilliant white light, which they followed before it dramatically changed their surroundings and lost them nearly 2 hours of time. They reported feeling a strange control over their vehicle, almost as if it could drive itself, and later found physical signs like rashes and bruises with no known causes on their bodies. Under hypnosis, they recalled more details about the encounter, describing it as initially memoryless, but later revealed through therapy sessions the incident was significant enough to involve reports to the RAF and left them with long-lasting effects, including disturbing nightmares, but who knows what else they experienced. The Allagash Waterway Abductions. The Allagash Waterway abductions in 1976 involved 4 friends, Charles Foltz, Chuck Rack, Jim Weiner, and Jack Weiner, who saw an unidentified flying object during a camping trip in Maine. This encounter allegedly resulted in their abduction by non-human entities who subjected them to medical examinations aboard the craft. The men claimed they lost several hours of time, which they could not account for, and their campfire, expected to burn for hours, had burnt down to ashes, suggesting a passage of time they could not recall. It wasn't until years later, after experiencing persistent nightmares and other disturbances, that they underwent hypnosis and provided consistent details. They have been repeatedly tested by psychologists and truth detectors and are reportedly telling the truth. Betty Andreessen Luca. It all began on the evening of January 25, 1967, in South Ashburnham, Massachusetts, when Betty reported that her home was visited by alien beings. They took her aboard a spacecraft and subjected her to various procedures. She described the aliens as angelic beings, who told her messages of love and unity. Under hypnosis, she revealed detailed interactions with these beings, who never hurt her, but did conduct some tests. Her case was extensively documented by UFO researcher Raymond E. Fowler, who wrote multiple books on her encounters. Initially, nobody but Fowler believed her, but her family was reportedly surveilled by the government for years, prompting rumors that the government was involved and might have even conspired with the aliens.
You know the scary thing about this is they keep saying they're conducting tests. They're conducting tests. By the time we either believe or start looking into it seriously, their tests will be over. Whatever they wanted to figure out, they've done figured out, and they're probably implementing and probably done with that. By the time we start to get into it, we'll be so far behind that what they need, they'll already have. Think about that.
The Sutton family. Let's travel to Kelly, Kentucky, to a strange night in August 1955. Inside their home, the Sutton family were resting when Billy Ray Taylor saw a strange light in the sky and went outside to investigate. Shortly, he and Lucky Sutton encountered small green creatures approaching their home. They had long arms, talons, and were floating. Thus began a terrifying night. The Sutton family tried to defend themselves, but the aliens magically warded off all weapons. The family was terrorized throughout the night and eventually fled to the local police station to seek help. The police investigated but found no evidence of the creatures, but believed the Suttons, who were reportedly terrified, Who knows? Maybe those aliens are still close. Jesse Long. Jesse Long shocked the world when he revealed he had been taken by aliens when he was just 5 years old in 1957. According to Long, this wasn't a one-time occurrence. He was routinely visited by aliens for several years, until they vanished. Then, in 1990, the aliens paid him a visit again, this time accompanied by alien-human hybrids, who claimed to be Long's children through an alien breeding experiment. That was the last contact he ever had, prompting him to finally share his story. Naturally, most people were skeptical, but a medical procedure pulled out an alien implant from his shin in 1991. The implant was analyzed, but was made from materials unknown to man. Do you believe him? Whitley Strieber. Whitley Strieber was sleeping peacefully in his cabin in upstate New York for Xmas holidays in 1985 when he was suddenly woken up by a strange entity, which forcefully took him on a spacecraft. His experience matched that of many UFO victims, medical procedures being the norm. He was returned, but unlike other alien abductees, Strieber remembered his experience and even detailed it in his book, Communion, in 1987. It wasn't the only shocker. Strieber revealed the aliens had even implanted a chip into his brain, possibly some way to control him or communicate with him. When all was forgotten, Strieber published more books titled The Greys and Confirmation, where he mentioned seeing grey aliens and even meeting human-alien hybrids. Kelly Cahill. On the night of August 8, 1993, Kelly Cahill, along with her husband and 3 children, experienced an unexplained event as they drove through the Dandenong foothills near Belgrave, Victoria, Australia. A large, rounded craft floated up front, blocking their way. It emitted different colored lights from its base. Scared, the family kept driving, but a strange, blinding white light flashed in front of them. When they came to, they'd lost an hour, with no idea what happened, and nothing unusual, except a strange triangular mark on Kelly's stomach. Later, the family remembered meeting thin, humanoid creatures, 7 feet tall, with large, glowing red eyes. But to this day, they don't know what happened to them, and if they'll ever be okay. Stan Romanek. Stan Romanek claims to have experienced multiple alien abductions and encounters with extraterrestrial beings. He asserts that these encounters first happened in 2000 and continued randomly until just last year, during which Romanek claimed to be hurt by alien beings, and even implanted with a strange device. Here's the catch. During these multiple abductions, Romanek even claims he once woke up with Betty Hill's dress, wondering if he encountered the same aliens as her and was purposely dressed like this, or if the duo were taken together and met aboard the UFO but don't remember it at all. Yet the biggest clues lie in his documentary, where he even shared footage and photos that prove his experience, exciting ufologists worldwide. Chris Bledsoe. During a fishing trip with his son and 3 co-workers, Bledsoe experienced a dramatic encounter with mysterious aerial objects and extraterrestrial beings. This event marked the beginning of ongoing paranormal experiences for him, which include multiple sightings of UFOs and interactions with what he believes are non-human entities. Bledsoe describes these beings with red glowing eyes and being somewhat small, about 3.5 feet tall. He also recounts episodes of missing time. The only proof is his health. Bledsoe was chronically ill before his first encounter, but miraculously recovered from it, puzzling doctors. He believes the alien beings he encountered blessed him with immunity. Bledsoe's case has attracted NASA, the CIA, and the FBI, all eager to find the truth. Val Johnson. While patrolling in the early hours, Deputy Sheriff Val Johnson encountered a bright light that rapidly approached his patrol car, leading to a collision-like event. The aftermath revealed significant damage to his vehicle, including a shattered windshield, bent antennas, and disrupted timekeeping devices, both on his wristwatch and car clock, which both lost 14 minutes. Johnson reported temporary blindness and was medically treated following the incident. Despite investigations by various organizations, there's no proof of the encounter, except his wrecked car. Many believe aliens planned the crash and used it to abduct him into another dimension, which explains why he was out for only 14 minutes on Earth. He's sure the aliens will return, but this time he'll be prepared. Amy Rylance. Amy Rylance was staying at a friend's, Petra Hella's house in Gundyr, Australia, when a bright beam of light shone through the window, levitating Amy inside a large craft right in front of Petra's eyes. Approximately 90 minutes after her disappearance, Amy was found in Mackay, Queensland, hundreds of miles away from where she was last seen. She was discovered in a disoriented state, but with weird marks on her body. Creepily enough, she had grown, suggesting while she was missing for only 90 minutes, it may have been several years for her. Back in Gundyr, there was nothing to prove her encounter except burnt bushes outside Petra's house. Since then, Amy has become a recluse, but who wouldn't? Clayton and Donna Lee. Clayton and Donna Lee, a couple from Houston, Texas, have reported multiple alien abductions throughout their lives. Their experiences match those of worldwide UFO abductions to a T. They were taken aboard a ship, medically examined and experimented on, but it didn't just happen one random night. Clayton first encountered these beings when he was just a child in a park. He was lifted into the air by an invisible force, which would return to haunt him and Donna years later. He believes the alien force targeted Donna because of him, and that perhaps he was never meant to be on Earth. Despite this, the couple have undergone multiple tests, but nobody has been able to prove if they're lying. Piers Anfretta. Piers Anfretta was just a night guard, but then in 1978, his life changed. As he kept duty, a brightly lit UFO descended in front of him. From it emerged scary-looking reptilian creatures. They had mottled green skin, large yellow eyes, and pointed ears, and told Zanfretta they were from a distant planet, Titonia. That is all he remembered until several hours later, he was thoroughly investigated by the Italian military police and was found in a state of shock. The police also found his car heating up, despite being...
Yeah, that had to be true. So I was thinking to myself, why isn't he running when they ran up on him? Like, why didn't he get up out of there? But his body probably went in shock, or they have some way to kind of paralyze you from moving. I also got that from that couple that went in the woods, that couple from earlier. Like, oftentimes you'll hear them talk about it's like paralyzing to where they can't move.
Turned off, and large footprints unlike anything they had seen. Zanfretta underwent multiple hypnosis sessions, where his accounts were so detailed and consistent over time that they drew significant media attention. Alfred Bertu. Imagine being so done with life that you meet aliens, and your only reaction is to join them. But that's what 77-year-old Alfred Bertu did, who was fishing along the Basingstoke Canal in Aldershot, Hampshire, and saw a bright light slowly moving toward him. He initially dismissed it as a helicopter, but his dog, Tiny, began barking as two small humanoid figures appeared, dressed in green overalls. The beings invited Bertu aboard. Inside, there was an octagon-shaped chamber, which smelled badly. The aliens scanned Bertu and asked his age. They then declared him too old and infirm for our purposes, and politely dismissed him. Bertu continued fishing, but wondered if they were seeking humans for a secret breeding experiment. The Coronado Group. In March 1994, during the Triad UFO Conference on Coronado Island, San Diego, multiple attendees reported being taken aboard a large extraterrestrial craft where they saw each other in various states during the abduction process. Some even saw alien-human hybrid children, suggesting aliens have been interacting with humans for decades. But what really shrouds everything in mystery is the then-President Bill Clinton, who was on the island at the same time. Many believe this isn't a coincidence, but proof of the United States being in cahoots with aliens. Of course, the White House never confirmed this, but with the way things have been going on, we all know those attendees weren't just taken for anything. There's something sinister at play. Anonymous Redditor. When you're taken by aliens but nobody believes you, you don't have a choice but to go public. This is the story of an unnamed woman from Detroit, who, in October 2015, was standing by the stove, lighting a cigarette with a scratch-off ticket in one hand, waiting for SNL to come on. Her boyfriend had left the house for the night. Just as she was about to smoke, the next thing she knew, she was waking up in the bathroom in the dark. Her boyfriend returned, but it was already day. She lost some 7 hours with no idea what happened, but here's the crazy part. She checked her phone and found these pictures, allegedly taken by the aliens. The Droitwich woman. In 2010, a woman from Droitwich experienced a chilling encounter that was captured on video by her husband. The footage shows her vanishing from their bedroom during the night. According to her, she felt a strong force pulling her away, leading to a loss of several hours. When she reappeared, she was confused and disoriented, with no memory of what had transpired during the missing time. Even in the video, we can't see anything that could have pulled her away, suggesting the aliens were using modern technology or were invisible beings. You can even see the duvet float up, suggesting that she didn't just move, but floated. Scarily, this wasn't the first time it happened, but did become the last. Karim Bianchi.
Abducidos.
Ya, pero no es.
No, en serio.
Por la ISAP.
Senator Karim Bianchi from Chile's Antarctic region never expected his life to cross paths with the mysterious. One night in 2012, while driving from Natales to Punta Arenas, a large rotating saucer appeared, causing his vehicle to stop suddenly as everything, including his phone, shut down. Moments later, he found himself 200 kilometers away, without any memory of how he got there. Following this, Bianchi experienced unusual occurrences, including frequent sightings of owls. Once, a stranger even handed him an owl.
Después de ese evento, me llegó una persona, me regaló un bus.
The strangeness escalated when an elderly bald man visited his office, claiming to be from another planet, and handing him secret NASA documents about Bianchi's abduction. Now that's weird. The number of owl sightings certainly don't make any sense.
Un pelado chico a mi oficina y me trajo unos papeles y me dijo usted que trae unos papeles que eran secretos de la NASA y él me dijo que era una persona de otro planeta y que yo, en vista que había sido abducido, me traía esos documentos.
MH370.
And what's with dropping me several miles or however many miles down the way doing? What are you doing that for? Why? Like, at least drop me back at my house, fam. I didn't even ask for this abduction. And you just taking me, hauling me off down the street, down to another city or town? No.
In 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was en route to Beijing but vanished. 10 years later, its disappearance remains a mystery despite long search efforts. Recently, a video has surfaced showing what appears to be Flight 370 encountering several orbs flying swiftly over its tail. The aircraft continued flying, seemingly unaware of its fate, until it suddenly disappeared into the clouds with a flash. This footage has led some to propose a startling theory: the possibility that the aircraft was abducted by alien forces. Of course, the question is, even if that's true, who took the video? And if we do go on with the alien theory, what would they want with the passengers? Let's hope the truth unveils soon. Sue Jameson. Sue Jameson recounts the night when her family experienced what they believe was an alien abduction. It began with Sue waking up to a blinding light flooding her room. She described feeling stuck, unable to move or scream. In the other room, her children experienced the same, except they could also see small, grayish beings with large heads and eyes. The family was lifted aboard a spacecraft, where they were subjected to medical tests. Poor Sue could see her children, but couldn't move an inch. The next day, they were back in their beds, with no memory. The only clue was their dreams, which constantly replayed the abduction. But now, almost a decade later, they remember and fear their return. Open discussion. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker.
Two local men confronted authorities with a rather bizarre story. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker told of a strange craft landing near their fishing site and of being taken aboard by three unearthly creatures.
On the night of October 11th, 1973, while fishing on the Pascagoula River in Mississippi, Hickson and Parker were startled by a strange noise and an oval-shaped craft. From this craft, 3 bizarre humanoid beings emerged. These creatures, described as having wrinkled skin, robotic motions, and claw-like hands, transported Hickson and Parker aboard their craft, inside which both men underwent an examination, which seemed to inspect their bodies without direct interaction from the beings. Traumatized and released, Hickson and Parker sought help from the local sheriff's department, but were laughed out. The sheriffs even locked them in the interrogation room to see if they'd crack. But to their surprise, they discussed the abduction in fear, proving they weren't just lying.